I think it's important that I start this video by talking about my experience with the Borderlands video game franchise, or more accurately, my inexperience. I decided to play Tales from the Borderlands purely due to my enjoyment of the other Telltale video games, specifically The Walking Dead and The Wolf Among Us. I'm cautiously optimistic about the upcoming Wolf Among Us 2, just so you know. However, I had never played a Borderlands game before I booted up Tales, so I was a little unsure as to what to expect. I'd heard the game was one of Telltale's best, often competing with The Walking Dead Season 1 and The Wolf Among Us for the Telltale crown, so I decided to give the game a chance despite my lack of knowledge when it came to the Borderlands lore. And I have to say, not only is Tales from the Borderlands my favourite Telltale game, it's one of my favourite video games of all time. In fact, it's not just in my top 10, it's in my top 5. I love Tales from the Borderlands so much and it made me check out the other Borderlands games, and I think this is also important to confess. But I wasn't a fan of them. I played about an hour or so of the first Borderlands game, and I just bounced right off it. I don't play many looter shooters, so I think it's more about the game not really being for me than anything to do with its objective quality. I mention all this as I think it's important to make you aware that you don't even need to like or be familiar with the Borderlands franchise to enjoy Tales from the Borderlands. It is one of the best written, funniest video games that I've ever played, and represents everything great about what Telltale once was. It also has an interesting reaction to one of the biggest criticisms often levied against Telltale games, mainly that of your choices being inconsequential. Now, this wasn't an issue for every player, as The Walking Dead and The Wolf Among Us were so well written that players didn't really mind that they were being funneled down a specific narrative direction. However, as time went on and the quality of the games noticeably plummeted, the smoke and mirrors could no longer hide behind good writing, as the good writing was arguably no longer there. Fortunately, Tales came out before this drop in quality, but it also did make an effort to at least soften the blow of having meaningless decision choices in a choice-based game. See, Tales from the Borderlands is a game from the perspective of two unreliable narrators, Reese and Fiona. Both characters are recounting the same adventure to a mysterious masked man who has taken them captive. It is due to this that many choices in the game are not about choosing what to do, but instead choosing what you tell the masked man happened. A lot of the time the choice is about which joke you want the character to say, and luckily for us, the comedy in this game is great. I know the Borderlands games have a bit of a rap for being poorly written with cringy dialogue. This sentiment has increased tenfold since the release of Borderlands 3. I'm not going to comment on it since, like I said, I haven't really played any of the Borderlands games, so I won't talk about the writing quality in those games, but I can promise that no matter the shortcomings of the script for those games, the one for Tales from the Borderlands is excellent. And it wasn't written by Gearbox, so if you don't like the dialogue in their games, you have nothing to fear since the game is completely different writers. And these writers know how to make a scene funny.
Smash the baby's face! Crunch its teeth! Run! You're the only one running, pal! I can fly!
Before I talk in depth about the story and the characters, I would like to point out that if you are a fan of the other Borderlands games, then there are plenty of treats for you here, with certain items and even characters from the other games playing an important role here. Most notably, one of the most popular video game villains in all of gaming, Handsome Jack. One of the few positives that can be said about all Telltale games is their casting. These guys always pick the best voice actors for their games, and it always led to well-voiced characters that were very easy for you to like and get attached to. Tales from the Borderlands has one of the most stacked casts of any video game, let alone a Telltale game. Reese is voiced by Troy Baker, who is arguably the biggest male voice actor in the video game industry at the moment, and Fiona is voiced by Laura Bailey, who is arguably the biggest female voice actor in the video game industry at the moment. You also have Chris Hardwick, you know, that guy after Talking Dead, Erin Yvette, who is a Telltale veteran, Patrick Warburton, who everyone knows from Family Guy, Nolan North, Mr. Uncharted himself, Damien Clark, returning as the villain everyone knows him as, and even Ashley Johnson making an appearance as a cuter BB-8. The characters in Tales from the Borderlands are also well written, and you enjoy being around them. I don't think I need to talk too much about Handsome Jack. He's a popular character for a reason, and even as someone who didn't play Borderlands 2, I could tell that he was a great character with a voice actor doing the perfect performance for him. He's clearly psychotic, but also so effortlessly charming. Anytime he's on screen, you light up with excitement and anticipation at what he's going to do next, and every line that comes out of his mouth is just gold. Reese is one of my favourite video game characters, and the character I enjoy playing as more as the two protagonists. It's an interesting change of pace for Troy Baker, who doesn't typically play characters like Reese. When you think of Troy Baker performances, you typically think of the cool, likeable tough guy character like Joel from The Last of Us or Booker DeWitt from Bioshock Infinite. Even his less cooler performances are usually for a character that you don't want to mess with, like Sam Drake from Uncharted 4 and Pagan Min from Far Cry 4. Reese is the total opposite of what we're used to from Troy Baker, as it is a much more comical performance from the actor. Reese is the type of character even I think I could beat in a fight. Well, maybe not, he does have a metal arm. But anyway, Reese is a likeable corporate guy trying and failing to climb the ladder. He's anything but an action hero, which is why he is so fun to play as. Due to his corporate background, he's also quite morally ambiguous. In fairness, pretty much every character in the game is morally ambiguous, but with Reese, he comes across a lot more like a selfish jerk than everyone else, and depending on your choices, you can really push this side of his personality. He also has the most interesting relationships with the other characters. He's the only one who can see and interact with Handsome Jack, and it's great to see Jack try to manipulate him into doing his bidding. His friendship with Vaughn is a delight, but it's his blossoming romance with Sasha, Fiona's sister, that is the most engaging relationship of the game. I will admit that it does kind of come out of nowhere, but the two characters have such great chemistry with one another that I don't mind it one bit, and I was more than on board with their relationship. It should be pretty clear by now, but I was a bit more lukewarm towards Fiona. She's not a bad character, but she is less fun than Reese to play as. Maybe it's because Reese is the more fun character, or the character with the more memorable story moments, but Fiona just didn't click with me like Reese does. Laura Bailey is excellent in everything she appears in, and this is no exception. She gives Fiona this fiery personality, and she commands respect from her peers far more than Reese, and just like with Reese, I loved her relationship with Sasha. The two really do feel like characters that care for one another, and I love seeing the lengths the two go to look after one another. Unsurprisingly, I really like Sasha. She's just a great character and adds development to both of the protagonists. I like that she's actually capable and doesn't rely on the protagonist's help, making her a very enjoyable side character. Vaughn gets a bit of a short stick in the game, as having a large presence in the first 2 episodes of the game, he ends up occupying the back seat for the final 3. I can't remember the reason why he drifts so much into the background, but it does negatively impact his character, which is a shame because of the great first impression he gave us. If there was a character who deserves a round of applause, then it is definitely Loaderbot. He's without a doubt the standout character in this game and the true highlight of every episode. Reese may have joked that he would name his firstborn Loaderbot, but considering how good his character is, I must admit, I'm considering it too. He's just a big softy, essentially a robotic version of the gentle giant, and I love how much he cares for all his friends, especially the cute, innocent Gortys. However, good characters can only get you so far, so it is with a great sigh of relief that the story is excellent too. I'll keep the details to a minimum, since I think it's best to experience this game with as little knowledge as possible. I made it clear at the beginning of the video that I love the idea of an unreliable narrator in a choice game. This element is excellent as it makes you question whether the game you're playing is being truthful with you or not. It also creates a mystery around who the masked man that has taken you captive is. The guy clearly knows you, and it's wonderful when in episode 5 the mask is finally removed. I won't spoil in case you haven't played the game, but trust me, the reveal is very satisfying. In fact, every reveal and plot twist in the game is extremely satisfying. I believe the story and characters in this game are so good due to the crew working on this game being quite small. As time went on, Telltale had more and more people working there, and there are a lot more people working on games like Batman and Minecraft Story Mode than there were for games like The Walking Dead and The Wolf Among Us. I genuinely believe this to be one of the issues that plague Telltale games, a case of there being too many cooks in the kitchen, as all the best Telltale games consisted of much smaller crews. I could be wrong, but it was something that I noticed and wanted to point out. I was very sad when Telltale went bankrupt in 2018, as it was one of my favourite game studios, and I'm glad that Telltale is making a comeback under new leadership with The Wolf Among Us 2. I really hope it's good and lives up to how excellent the original is. No matter the quality, I will play the game to show my support. I just won't buy any afterwards if it sucks. I am aware that Tales from the Borderlands is getting a sequel, but I must admit, I'm not excited for the game at all. It seems to be focusing on a new set of characters, and since it's Gearbox writing this and not Telltale, I can't lie, I just don't think it will be very good. The comments under the trailer on YouTube seem to echo my sentiments, and I think most people just wanted a straight up sequel to Tales from the Borderlands. It's a game that I'll keep my eye on, but I'll wait for the reviews, and please, if you bring Reese back, have him actually voiced by Troy Baker, not whoever voiced him in Borderlands 3 please. I think Troy would actually do it. Oh, and also if he does show up, don't kill him off. I know the Borderlands games have a habit of killing off the previous protagonists in their games, and nothing would annoy me more than to find out Reese dies in a game I'm never going to play. Anyway, to end the video on a more positive note, if you haven't played Tales from the Borderlands, then you should definitely drop everything immediately and get right on it, because you're missing out on one of the best games I've ever played. Anyway, that's it. See ya.